Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Just as a reminder, before we start our meeting tonight, everyone will either have to be masked up or leave the premise. Since this building does have mandatory face coverings, I mean, you can have a shield or anything like that, but we'll need to have that done. Thank you. or anything like that? Are there some on the table, Mike? Okay. But I'm gonna need to still wait until you do that or leave the building, since it is mandatory in our school system and our buildings inside to have them on, so. Thank you.
Just to let you all know, I have a medical exemption from Mayo Clinic for heart and lung disease. And you've decided to push the issue, so I will pursue my problem with the American Disabilities Act.
Can we make exceptions for people with medical issues?
We would probably need that form here, wouldn't I would think. So I wouldn't have that authority to know if they did or not, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know all the legalities. It would be nice if we could take people's word for it.
Didn't anticipate them, Angie, people not wearing masks tonight, so I don't have the answer to that. So couldn't answer it tonight.
Mr. Clott,
Mm-hmm.
it has been my experience when people have exemptions to a particular policy or circumstance, they should bring documents that verify that. I know that's the case in the world that I live in the sport of wrestling. If someone has a skin disorder, but it's been documented by a physician that they're okay to compete, they bring that documentation with them.
I believe at the last meeting too, we were, well, how long has the school district been now masked, Mike?
The board made the decision for everybody at the last meeting.
Okay.
I would also like to say that it is illegal. It's not lawful to have these mandates. And I don't know how you can think you can impose them on these children. You are suffocating them. You're doing wrong
I think we would want to be careful legally of what we are requiring people to do. If we don't know how to proceed tonight, maybe we should adjourn tonight's meeting and reschedule when we do know how to legally proceed, because we do not want to put the district at risk of liability. I call for adjournment.
No, thank you. I appreciate that offer. I'm considering it.
I have no standing to make any statements or questions or anything.
Is there anywhere, Mike, that we could find that answer within a few minutes in case that would?
You have the authority to do, the mask mandate is in effect. You have the authority to, ask people to wear a mask or to leave, period.
Okay.
So, or provide documentation. If they don't have any of the above,
Okay.
then they need to comply.
Okay, thanks. I mean, it's not my favorite subject either, you know that. What was that?
You all need to do your research.
Okay, I would like to call the meeting to order tonight. Let's stand for the pledge. And I would like to announce that Jill is joining us online. Hi, Jill. Okay. So I would look for approval of tonight's agenda. Second, okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose the same. Thank you. Okay, action items. First one is 3.1, resolution appointing election judges for our November 2nd school district special election. Mike, do you need anything to say on that? It's the same?
Just a formality, approving who's going to be the judges for the election.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that?
I'd just like to point out that there are different locations for folks, so people should look to see where they're voting.
Yeah.
So since it's the school question on the ballot as election judges, normally I'll help out. Is that something that I would need to abstain from, or could you check on that? Or just from being a judge that day?
Are you on that list? Okay, you should be okay.
So you're not on that list. I didn't see it all. Okay, I didn't think I did. Okay. Okay. Good point.
So I'd be all right.
Anything else? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose the same sign. Okay, motion carries. 3.2, we have open forum procedures. We've had a request to make some changes and take a look at our open forum procedures because we started to have more people that would like to visit and address the board. And so we thought we would open that up tonight a little bit so we could discuss that. I do have some proposals that we're looking at, but just kind of wanted to tighten up, but how can I say loosen up a little bit on it too so we could get some more people. So I'll open that up. Do we need, I suppose we need a motion and all that for discussion? Shouldn't, do we?
No, only if you're going to make a motion to approve something. At this point, I think you can
Wait, okay.
discuss. Yes.
Okay. So I will open that up to discussion. Does anyone have any thoughts on some different things, procedures? Dennis?
I'm glad we're taking a look at it. I think it's important that we find a reasonable way to allow as many people to speak and be heard. I know there's individuals out there that have, on different occasions, wanted to speak, and they spend heart and soul into writing something down, and they get very, very nervous. So how do we find a way to allow those individuals the opportunity to do it? Also being respectful of our time as a board, knowing that we have a lot on our agenda to go through at different times, but being respectful to the public. 10 minutes might be too short. We've seen that. More times than that, though, we haven't even had any discussions, but finding a means to maybe open it up a little bit to give us the opportunity to hear individuals out in the community. Also reaffirming to individuals that please call us, contact us, visit with us, somehow just to make it a comfortable level for everybody.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, Jill, go ahead.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I requested the open forum guidelines to be on the agenda for action because I believe they are inadequate. We want to practice open, accessible government, which is navigable, and we must be approachable, even if it's something we've heard before. People have a right to be heard. 10 minutes a month is not enough. It must be more. And open forum should be offered anytime there's an action item on the agenda. Like tonight, we have an action item, it's a workshop, there's no open forum. There really should be. Or we could have an open forum at all of our workshops and meetings. The chair does not have authority to pick certain names from a list. That authority rests with the board. The chair simply facilitates the meeting. Open forum is not a time for positive PR messages to be manipulated. It's a time for the people to be heard. Good behavior is the best PR, and work is needed in that area. It was not the public that was out of order last meeting, it was the board. A motion was not being honored, and the public was bringing that to the board's attention. Also, interrupting and disrupting comments were made by the board. We must model respect if we're expecting the same. Staff have the individual right to address the board, as do we all. But in the future, the board should know whether staff will be giving their reports during the open forum time rather than during the board meeting time. It would seem a change of agenda would be in order. And if staff reports or board reports, for that matter, will be given during open forum time, the public should be allowed the same time in additional time given to them, or perhaps be given a seat at the table that night. We could all give our reports during open forum, but that really doesn't make any sense. This is the people's time. It's their right to be heard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else would like to comment on some open forum? Bruce?
Is 2 minutes enough time to speak?
Okay,
Most people get enough to say in 2 minutes, I think. What are we thinking about changing to 10 people speaking? I think there needs to be a limit so we can move on with the board agenda.
I know some school districts do open forum at the end of the meeting also. So I mean, it's kind of open on that, but I agree we could open it up more. I think 2 minutes might be okay. I guess I haven't prepared a 2-minute talk before the board, but I think, like you said, or Jill said, 2 more people would be good to hear. Jill, did you?
This may be a ridiculous idea, but as you pointed out, typically we don't have anybody who wants to speak at an open forum. And, you know, occasionally there may be 1 or 2, and then the present format accommodates that easily. But in situations such as those that are occurring now in our world, might it be sensible to schedule a meeting where the only thing on the agenda was an open forum, and then we wouldn't have to worry about that program exploding into our business meeting, and we could have a significant amount of time for as many people who wanted to speak, and it wouldn't be imposing itself on a regular meeting and a regular conducting of business.
How often are you thinking of doing something like that, Neil?
As needed. Currently, the situation that's with masking and protocols relative to COVID is a circumstance that would precipitate an occasion for such an event. I would expect this to be rather rare. And in my experience on the board and as an educator for many years, there weren't that many times when there were pressing issues that the public wanted to address to the board.
Chair Klatt, a suggestion that I might bring forward is that on our sign-up we have a topic line, and it potentially would, the agendas are given out before the meeting, and so if someone had comments on what we've put on the agenda, that we've prepared, we've researched, those kind of things, that might help with having folks comment on those areas.
So like an agenda item. So I mean, it makes it relevant for the night, and we've all had our agenda to look into it, and that sounds pretty reasonable. Dennis?
I think, to Neil's point, or I think you had said it, doing it after the meeting might not be good because a lot of times when individuals attend, they have concerns on something coming up. That could be a disservice by doing it at the end of the meeting. I like the idea just that we can tie it to the topic at hand. I also like the idea of if we have to do an open forum night where we can get feedback, pro or con, on the issue at hand, so it doesn't tie into the other agenda items in the meeting. So, like you said, though, most times the forum hasn't been a lot of even happened several times. So, in the cases where something arises, I think that might be a good idea.
Okay. Angie?
Yes, Neil's idea is interesting. I think that could be useful on occasion. My preference would be to keep our open forum at the beginning of the meetings ahead of time so we can consider thoughts before we vote. And my own preference is that we wouldn't have a limit on how many people can speak. I understand having a limit on how long they can speak, but you know, like I said at our last meeting, it takes an awful lot for somebody to come here, and for a lot of people, it's their biggest fear is public speaking. They know they're being recorded. It's usually a controversial issue, so it takes a lot for people to come here, and you know, I think it benefits them for us to listen, and it benefits us to listen to them. And like it's been said, it doesn't happen very often that we have a huge crowd, so I would, you know, I think the more we listen, the less likely we are to have a very angry crowd out there too, so it might help us. I think I would like to have no limits to the number of people, but we could keep a 2-minute limit, or maybe even increase that if we have only a handful of people. But those are my thoughts.
Jill?
Thank you. I also agree 2 minutes seems adequate. I would prefer that we do not allow, maybe we could not allow members to defer their time to another person who has already spoken, although community members can craft a message together and take 2-minute segments of it. And I don't really see the benefit of adding a topic to the list. I mean, we don't want to appear that we are conniving in any way to choose who and what we're going to be hearing. And so I would not want any limit on the number of speakers. 2-minute warning, 2 minutes would be enough. And I have heard some talk of an online sign-up sheet. I'm not in favor of that because I do not feel that is navigable. I believe that the community members are used to coming to a meeting, signing up, and having the opportunity to be heard. Thank you.
Okay. I actually believe that an online sign-up sheet is not a bad idea to let them collect their thoughts. And we have, the thing I don't know if we want to do is we have a large number of speakers on the same topic, because if they continue, just like in any other meeting, if they continue to have the same thoughts, maybe they could get together as a group, or if some of them are not, you know, liking to speak in front of the group, maybe they provide it. I mean, we've been getting emails, which is good, but maybe they provide it to the board in writing to say, hey, this is our thoughts. And, you know, I concur with what Neil says as he spoke or whichever. So I still, and I agree, Jill, they've been used to coming to the meeting. I think it'd just be nice to be able to have a number that we know we're working with as far as being an unlimited number, so we know, again, maybe people organize their thoughts together. Just my thought to that.
If we did an online sign-up sheet, would it be limited to signing up online?
No, I think we still need to find a number in there that's manageable. So I mean, the bottom line is the school board meeting is a business meeting held within the public. And we need to, I mean, I think they can come to, you know, any of us. I think most of us should be accessible. We live in the community, and talk to us or talk to administration. If they want to talk to administration, that's fine. But talk to us ahead of time, because it's not a bad idea. Dennis has a problem, and he could call me as a school board member, and then I might have the opportunity to go to the administration, which might even be a quicker. So that's my only thought on that, I guess. Again, I think it's a good idea. I think we need to find a good system too. I mean, like last time it was unfortunate. There was, I don't know, 15, 16, 17 that signed up, a large number anyway, larger than I would have ever seen. And some way that, if I show up at 5 minutes to 5 compared to 3 o'clock for a meeting to sign up, that I'd have the same opportunity to speak. And, it sounds kind of crazy, but maybe we got 10 speakers, we get 10 numbers in a hat, and we just draw them out here, and number 6 comes up and speaks, and number 3 and 2, and whatever the number is, to give some randomness to the opportunities. Not that not everything is important, but just our time for the kids. Trying to focus back on the kids and trying to get the business of the school district done too is just a thought of mine. Dennis?
The online could be good. Where I'd be concerned is if you have some families that have difficulties because they don't have access to internet, to emails and things. If you're going to do something like that, then you'll need the opportunity, easy number that they can call to leave their name and the number on so that they have that opportunity. The worst thing we could do is do that, and then we're missing a segment of the community because it's not available.
Here's what we're trying to avoid.
Pardon?
Here's what we're trying to avoid. All right, so typically in a normal meeting, Ashley puts the sign-up sheet over here at 4 o'clock. All right? So last meeting, a bunch of people came at 4, 4:15, 4:30 to get signed up on that list. It was a race to get signed up on the list. Okay? So suddenly we had 15 people, I think 15, 16 people were the number on the list. And Kim had the 10 minutes that, okay, what are we going to do? So she made a decision and was blistered for it publicly, for the decision that she made. So what we are trying to do is come up with a plan that people can sign up, but they don't have to race to get up here, okay? So I think it's a good idea. What you're saying there, Dennis, is I think you could probably do a hybrid of what you're talking about here, and that would be people have to sign up with Ashley. They can call her, they can fill out a form online, and they have to do it by, say, 4 o'clock, okay? And that way, if people want to do it either way, if they're technologically challenged, then they could do it. She would then provide that information to the board chair. And we have looked at this, and we've taken a hard look administratively how we could assist the board in doing this. I don't know if you have that site, Ashley, at all, but there's a randomizer site. If you wanted to go with your pick 6, 8, 10 people, whatever it is, to offer the list, we can have, and she can do it right here on these screens in front of the meeting, put in, say, 10 people, and those 10 numbers would be randomly picked, and those would be the ones who would be allowed to speak. So that takes the decision work away from you as far as, okay, you didn't pick me or you picked somebody else. So those are just a few thoughts.
And I'm sure they could call in too if they didn't have the online capabilities, or stop in and say, hey, I'd like to make sure I get my name on that list. I'm going to speak about XYZ. And, I'm a taxpayer in the school district. I mean, that's kind of what the sheet is, I think, so. Angie?
So if people showed up at the meeting, would they not be able to sign up to speak if they weren't already on the list?
Whatever the board decided as far as criteria.
Oh, yep. Jill?
So it still sounds, I would say, fishy to me if I was a community member and I wanted to speak about maybe how rotten the board is or whatever it is. And so we get wind that there's going to be somebody speaking about that, so we have a bunch of our buddies sign up to skew those numbers so that the odds are in our favor. And then our community members come wanting to tell us their feedback for whatever it is, and we have had the inside track on getting that taken care of. How is that going to be managed?
Well, I'll just clarify. Open forum is not a time for people to come and say how rotten we are. So we'll just clarify that. Also, that's the second time that it's been brought up that it's conniving or fishy. And I think that we need to operate above the line and be respectful of each other and understand that we are all public members, people that have feelings. And if there's a concern about that, we can talk about that, but that's not what we're talking about right here. It's not them against us. We are all community members in Albert Lea, in this district, and we got to work together. So that's what I'm here for. That's what I want to have happen with this discussion. So I think we need to. I think you stated yourself, Jill, that you wanted it to be positive, and I think that's the way we should proceed.
Yeah, Neil.
So if I understand it, what we're talking about now is how to generate a list of people who sign up to speak. Is that right? Correct? And right now, they sign up at that table back there before the meeting.
4 o'clock.
And we're
yeah.
talking about extending that to an opportunity for people to electronically or through telephone sign up. And if that window is from 4 to 5, an hour before the meeting, I think it would be incumbent upon the process to assure confidentiality in who's signing up. So as Jill is concerned, somebody might rally the forces and call forth an opposition to. I don't see that happening if the sign-up list is done in 1 hour before the meeting, and people don't have an opportunity to see who's signing up. So what's the problem? And Mike's suggestion of the good old random function on an Excel spreadsheet could very easily pick out if you have 50 people sign up and we settle upon 10 people that can speak, that'd be simple.
Yep. Jill.
Thank you. And just to clarify, my example of telling us what a rotten board we are, it was just an attempt at a humorous example. The word I used wasn't positive. I don't think it was respectful. And so we need to respect the community. We need to respect the process. And appearances are very important. And those are the points that I've been trying to make. Thank you.
Okay. Any other thoughts to Angie?
Oh, sometimes it's hard to know what to say. I have so many thoughts. Appearances are important, and from the public side, if we are picking and choosing who's speaking, it does very much need to be random, or it's going to look as if it's being skewed. And from the chair's perspective, I think it would be a terrible spot to have to choose who's going to speak. That's going to bite you in the butt no matter what you do. So, if we do limit the number of people, it definitely needs to be random. But again, I think my preference is that we wouldn't limit it. I mean, it really doesn't take that much time. If everybody at our last meeting had spoken, it would have been a half hour, and I think probably things would have gone a little bit better for us if we had just done that. We spent 13 minutes at the beginning of this meeting just sitting there, so I think we can spare a little extra time to listen to people. But again, most of the time, there's only going to be one or two or nobody there. So.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Jill.
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate the point I made earlier that I believe we need to at least have it at every, we already have it at every meeting, but at the workshops such as this one where there are action items, we need to also have open forum or have it at all workshops.
Jill, by doing that, you would be requiring us to make an adjustment to another one of our board policies that is not on the discussion for tonight.
Okay, so we can talk about that at a future meeting then?
If the chair so decides, yes.
If the chair so decides. Thank you.
So what are we thinking? Are we thinking of a number in here? We've heard, And I believe probably 10 minutes is probably too short. I don't know if that's long, short for the state of Minnesota. I guess it doesn't matter. It's Albert Lee. 50% more than that? I mean, we go to 8, we go to 7, 9? I mean, what are we thinking? We need to pick a number, I think. Kim?
I thought about this ahead of time, and I thought that when I saw it, I thought it was a difficult position, and I want to be part of the solution. So, to me, 8 people speaking is a good number. My concern is that someone that hasn't had a chance to speak at open forums and wanted to wouldn't get that option. So that's my concern about limiting anything. So I'd be 8 or 10 people. My concern also is if around the state this is an issue, school board meetings are an issue. And I think the issues that are in Albert Lee need to be Albert Lee issues, and those are the people we need to listen to. And so I think it's important that what we discuss here, we invite our community to share with us. So I feel like 8 or 10 people speaking for 2 minutes is a good number.
You know, maybe the thought you'd mentioned too, I just picked up what you said, maybe if we've got more, maybe if a person has spoken at a previous meeting, maybe they should be down at the bottom so we can get new people in. It's just a thought again. You know, if we're going to have 8 people or whatever and we got 12 sign up and, you know, I've spoken at the last 3 meetings, it should be maybe me settling back. Jill, I can see it.
I would like us to set aside a minimum of 30 minutes for open forum. We know we're probably not going to have anybody on a normal day. But when there are important issues to talk about, 30 minutes is a reasonable time to hear community input on whatever they want to talk to us about.
Okay. Bruce?
I agree with Jill. I think we should set it at 30 minutes, but we have to have a time limit, I feel. 30 minutes. We had 15 people sign up last time. Everybody would have got to speak, so I'm in favor of 30 minutes.
Still 2 minutes a person? Yes. Okay. Neil?
I'd have no problem with that. Again, my concern is some marathon that would interfere with our conducting the district's business. And 30 minutes is not, I don't consider that a marathon. 30 minutes would be, we spent, 30 minutes talking about this issue already, so that shouldn't be too much of an imposition.
Yes.
I like the idea with the 30 minutes. It gives people a chance to speak. If something arises where more and more people need to talk, then we look at the scenario that Neil talked about, that we hold a forum as needed, separate from the regular school board meeting. But I got to believe that 30 minutes should be fair for everybody to have the opportunity to talk. And if we hold everybody to the 2 minutes, you're looking at 15 people, which would put us pretty well in the right ballpark. The other caution I would have is, as we look at this, make sure that we have an agenda item on a workshop later on, just so we can discuss it and make sure that we are doing the right things, so we're not held to something that's not working.
You know, a couple of times people have brought up, well, what about those people who want to talk? Some districts have done a couple of different things. As Dave mentioned, they've added time on at the end of the meeting, which I don't think is super effective, but they have done that. If you didn't get to talk in the first 30 minutes, or as you're speaking here. The other piece is, a lot of districts, if you are not picked to speak, you're encouraged to send your remarks in writing or make copies of your remarks in writing for the board. So that's just another thing. That way people still do get to hear what people are thinking.
Yes, Dennis.
I like the idea of turning something in, because then if they did have a question or something concerning, the key with that though is if we take those in, making sure we turn around and respond to those quickly so that people know that they're being listened to.
Okay, so I see 30 minutes. Do we want to tie a topic to the agenda? I mean, I think that would give us that'd give us an opportunity to be prepared, but it is a listening session, so I get that too. Go ahead, Jill.
No topic. We are only listening. We do not respond. We don't have to respond to an open forum speaker, although if they do ask questions, I would say to submit those questions to us in writing so that we can, if they do question us, they need to have answers. But it's in the guidelines as well that we will not be acting on anything that's brought to us for the first time in an open forum. So there's no need to tie it to the agenda or to have the topic known to us ahead of time.
Neil?
I'd agree with that too. The concept open forum suggests open, not tied to any particular agenda item. And I'd also agree that I'd be very interested in hearing from those that didn't have an opportunity to speak in writing, but I would also be quick to point out that the board is not obligated to respond to either a written message or a spoken one at an open forum. We certainly listen, but it's not intended to be a dialogue.
I just want to clarify, the topic recommendation was based on limited time. So I'm for not having a topic if
Okay.
we increase the time.
Yes, Dennis.
I would make a motion that we look at 30 minutes for the open forum, 2 minutes per person, and then we need to, let's just go with that unless anybody wants to add any more.
Would you add random selection of?
Yeah, with a random selection process that's open and transparent for everybody to see. Correct.
So,
Sign up in advance, if able to. We'll have the one here at 4 o'clock, and if we can look at the online piece. But it's got to be a transparent process.
Those are two different things, okay? So we either, we could sign up in advance, but still have a sheet up here, or do we just have a sheet up here at 4 o'clock and then come and hand it to you? I mean, that's simplest. And if you're going to use a randomizer, that's...
yeah, I mean...
This is what we're considering what should be included in Dennis's motion now.
Yeah, let me,
Yeah.
I'm going to pull it back and just so I can get it correct. If we do the motion just for 30 minutes, 2 minutes per person, sign up as we normally have right now, see how that works, and then if it doesn't work, then we investigate another way. So I pulled my last motion. I'm going to rephrase it that I move that we have the open forum be for 30 minutes with 2 minutes per person max.
So the basic change really is only just going from the 10 to 30 minutes, correct?
To 30, yes.
Yep, okay. And Neil seconded it, okay. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, sorry, Jill, didn't see the hand. Go ahead. Oops, we lost her.
Sorry, I just lost my video. Let's see, start video, okay. Just wanted to, and I forgot what I was going to say. So we need to be clear on when the sign-up sheet will be available.
4 o'clock,
No change. No change to current.
Okay.
all day?
No, 4 o'clock is what...
Yep, 4
yeah,
o'clock, right there,
right.
yep. Just like it has been.
And then the selection will be randomized?
Yep.
Okay.
That might draw them out of a hat,
All
so
right.
it'll be,
I can get on
pretty
board
simple.
with all of that.
get some big numbers. Any other questions? All right, all those in favor of the change from 10 to 30 minutes, 2 minutes apiece, as Dennis had made the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose the same
Was there a
sign?
second? Sorry, I missed, was there a second?
Yes, there was. Neil seconded, Joe.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Aye.
All right, that passed then 7-0. All right, that's 3.2. 4, study session. Number 4.1 is the energy report. Steve Lund has been waiting patiently.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here and present my annual report that I didn't present last year due to changes. Let's see. All right, just to give you a little background again, we've been involved in this program since 2004. And over that period of almost 17 years now, I guess, we've saved about $5.5 million. And just to give you kind of an idea of what we're spending for utilities this past year, our total gas, electric, and sewer and water was about $707,000, slightly over that. So if we go on to the next, okay, there we go. I've broken that down. I just simply started because our base year is our 2002, 2003, so I wanted to give you that. And you can see now with that 707,000 I was talking about, back in that time we were spending $665,000 for our utilities. And over the years, I've put in some random years there in that, for example, 2007 and 8 was the point where we were able to save 30%. And that had been a long-term goal because it's generally accepted that there's 30% waste in most businesses, industries, and so forth. So I wanted to see if we couldn't capture that 30%. And we did that. You can see our first few years, a little slow, but once we achieved that level, and now, if you look down, our actual savings were 43%, which is not a good number from the standpoint that with schools being closed last year and, you know, the kind of conditions, that sure isn't a true indicator of where we are. And it also gives us a savings each year. And that savings is based on that first year, our pilot year, and also weather conditions. So weather conditions are figured in because our winters and summers, as we all know, can be very unusual from year to year. So it does factor in. We enter in daily weather, average weather every day. And so that number comes out in our savings. It compares our base year and the weather. So it's a combination of both. It's interesting to note that, you know, all of this isn't just due to, you know, the work that our staff does. Some of this comes from our building changes that we've made over the years when they added new lighting in the buildings, they added new heating, ventilation, air conditioning, all of these things. And it's interesting that we were able to add air conditioning to all of our buildings and not increase our costs. And that's a pretty major accomplishment. But part of that was done because we put in some new boilers. You know, we you know, Neil taught up the old high school. He knew what that was like compared to. You had air conditioning every day, you know, and so there are a lot of things that impact that. Also, we've added windows now to Halverson, but we've also added square footage, new lighting out there. So all of these things have impacted our savings in energy. I'm going to break it down into specific areas. If you look at our base year in 2002, 2003, the number of kilowatt hours we're using, the past year, about 2 million kilowatt hours less. Then we go into demand, and demand influences the price you pay. Demand occurs when someone walks into a building and turns on the air conditioning and turns on all the lights, and our demand then peaks. And that is the basis for our charge for the entire month. So lowering that demand is also part of our goal. And you can see we have been able to lower that somewhat, not a tremendous amount, but somewhat. The next area down, if you look at the cost, our costs have almost doubled. And, but if you look at our total cost, it certainly hasn't doubled over that period of time. Had we continued to use what we were using in 2002, 2003, our total cost for this year would have been about $780-some thousand. So you can see we've lowered our cost about $200,000 there. Okay. Natural gas, you can see the number of therms we were using in our base year in 2002, or 3 and 4, and what we used in 2021. We were able to decrease that significantly. Fortunately, over that period of time, well, not over the entire period of time, but from then till now, our gas prices haven't gone up significantly. We did have as most of you recall, we did have a period somewhere in the middle there, that 17 years we've been in this program. People remember that, especially people that had LP in their farms and things like that. There were a few years there where they really got socked. But that price has come down again. But everything we hear is that price will skyrocket again. I think I found information on residential costs, but there's very little information out there about what we will pay in commercial costs. And we won't know until the September bill arrives. That's when we will start to see. What they're trying to do is make up for the $800 million Minnesota was tagged with for Texas, when they had the freeze and the infrastructure went down. Our share of that is $800 million. So you can understand our bill will go up. And I have no idea how much, but it will be fairly significant, I think. Okay. Water and sewer, again, we've been able to decrease that somewhat. Costs in water and sewer have gone up significantly over the years, more than doubled. And you can see there again, our total cost is almost doubled there. That's a difficult one to do much with. You know, we use a certain amount of water, and most of that was we were able to reduce by automatic flushers in lavatories and things like that, instead of, regulating our automatic flushers, put it that way, instead of having them run day and night, and whether there's nobody in the school or not. And so you can see, and from what you hear with the city, again, I'm expecting water and sewer prices to go up again too. So, that's pretty much a given. I think the city has some significant work they need to do, and we'll bear that cost. So, okay, here's a building comparison. I've put in 3 different comparisons there. I guess they got the they got a little run together there. Okay. The first one is Minnesota B3, and we're required by the state to submit our data to the state every year. And they give us a ranking based on schools of similar size, usage, and so forth. So you can see the closer you are to 100, the better our buildings are. Now, I want to point out Southwest and Sibley, those numbers are skewed because Southwest heats both Sibley and Southwest. So, and there's no way to break that down under the state report. So Sibley should be a little lower, Southwest should be a little higher. But you can see we're in pretty good shape. Why? What do you mean? Under Energy? Under Energy Star, yeah. Halverson was our most expensive building to heat and air condition. No, and I think that's based on some past numbers, because Halverson has come up significantly in the past year. They've moved to number 2. High school is our number 1, but Halverson has a large footprint and takes more to heat. They had some terrible windows in that building that they've now replaced, and just a lot of conditions out there. They had a lot of turnover in custodial staff, and it takes a while every time you make a change like that to get them to know just exactly all the ins and outs of the building and how to run certain things. So, Jill?
Thank you. And how about Brookside? Is that just because it gets more use during the day and during the year?
Yes, Brookside, is a building that's used at least 5 days a week, and there's no summer here. There's no shutdown, really, in this building, but Brookside does very well for the use of the building. And considering they still have some single pane windows, all of these, they're poorly insulated and single pane, so. And so Energy Star also, to qualify as an Energy Star building, you have to have a score of 75 or above, and you can see we're, other than Halverson, pretty good there. And then the cost per square foot, you can see how each of the buildings rate there, the high school being the highest. And I know people will say, well, yeah, but they put in geothermal, it should be the lowest. No, they have a swimming pool, they have a greenhouse. Greenhouses are very expensive to operate. Swimming pools are very expensive to operate. They have activity there 12, 14, 15 hours a day. Again, a lot of 6 and 7 day activities there in that building. So the high school does very well for that, for the use of the building. And if you're looking at the greenhouse impact, what we've saved over the years is equivalent to over 9,000 trees growing, or removing over 7,000 passenger cars. And are there any questions?
How do we compare to other districts, do you know?
No, we do, but we don't. We can go on the B3 report from the state of Minnesota. But the problem is when they came out with that report, or when they started that business, we were 2/3 of the way into our program. So that became our base year. Our base year started after we saved 30%. Some of them just started then, and so now they've saved 30%, where we've saved, 5%. So it's really difficult to compare apples and apples on that one. The best comparison is the buildings, how we rank buildings as buildings compared to other buildings in the state. And that.
Yeah, Dennis.
So, like you were talking at, like here, is there a plan in capital then to start changing windows again? I know you're always ahead of the game with lighting and just efficiencies of scale during the school day, but is there plans of that?
I don't know about any long-range plans for this building.
I don't remember the specifics from the long-term facilities plan. That's something I can get with Steve on. Even, you guys haven't touched on that in the facilities meeting, have you? Right. Yep.
Well, these are pretty bad. Yeah, I worked here a long time. You don't want to sit by a window. You just tell people, don't put your desk by the window. No.
Any other questions for Steve? Oh, yes, Joe.
Jill, yes.
I just want to say, I always look forward to this report because it's just amazing as prices go up and our, use cost goes down, and I know it's a team effort, and so congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you. And it is a team effort. I just audit what's happening. I'm not making it happen. I'm out there telling you how it's happening, and it's our staff, it's our custodians. Our custodians do a great job at this. They really endorse it and work with us, and our staff over the years have done, and I'm out there to remind them. So.
Doesn't seem like 17 years already either, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Wow.
I thought I'd maybe do this for 4 years. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. The program started under me, and I know you've done a great job saving over $2 million. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, 4.2 is a budget update. Jennifer Walsh and the administration.
Okay, I'm going to start, and then we've got Jeff Halverson and Paul Durbin that are going to chime in. So this really isn't so much a budget update as we've had the question, as we've been meeting with lots of groups, Dr. Funk and I, and we talk about if our ballot question does not pass, we know that that's going to be approximately a $2 million hit to our revenue. And so what would that mean for the school district? And we've hesitated to put together a very detailed list, just because we know that if it does not pass, this will require a lot of discussions amongst the administration, the school board. But we wanted to give you an idea of some things that we have thought about. And it's a combination of revenue generators and expenditure reductions. So again, this is not an exhaustive list. It does equal a little bit over $2.4 million. We know the last couple of years we've had to make cuts just as our enrollment has remained steady or slightly declined. So we anticipate we might have to make those kind of cuts again anyway. So I'm just going to go through this list. So as you all know, something really neat that the school board enacted last year was the option for families when they go online to pay their activity participation fees, that without having to go to the athletic director and state a case for a reduced fee, now they simply pay what they can afford. We do put on there what the actual fee is, but then they can pay without any questions asked what they can afford. And what we've seen is that was about a $25,000 reduction of revenue. So if we would go back to our old model, we could expect to see about $25,000 more in revenue. This next one goes back to 2012, when, again, the school board, especially at that time, really made a groundbreaking decision not to charge our students to go to activities. So any student or family of students that wants to go to a football or volleyball or basketball game, the students do not have to pay. So again, I went back to 2012 and looked at what we brought in revenue, as opposed to approximately what we bring in now. We don't differentiate revenue, whether it's a child or an adult, but just the overall difference was about $15,000. I think this was the first year we decided not to charge high school parking fees, and that was about $14,000 in lost revenue. And then we look at things, okay, what can we do potentially that would be reductions in expenditures? And this is a list that we've come up with. So we were planning to refresh our computer network, $73,000. Cancel our planned technology replacement, $137,000. Then we looked at a couple of things. If we were to have to pare down our high school offerings and really just get to the core of what's needed for graduation, and if we would eliminate the concurrent enrollment and advanced placement courses, simply what we pay in tuition for concurrent enrollment is $27,850. AP exams, what the district paid for our students to take those was $21,000 last year. We looked at potentially reducing the gifted and talented coordinator. We have put some really neat measures in place this year to help our students as they're experiencing a gap from the pandemic. 5 resource specialists, a middle school counselor, a social worker that is shared between the ALC and the high school. Then we looked at reducing one of our director coordinators for $139,000, a dean of students, $104,000, an administrator, a little over $160,000. And a reminder, these are total package costs. This is not just salaries. This is our share of benefits of FICA, TRA, or PERA. And then to get to that $2 million plus, we looked at, okay, our largest single group is our teachers. And a starting teacher average total package is $65,000. So this is not a subject that any of us relish talking about, but because it did come up so much in our conversations of what would this potentially look like to our district, how devastating is a $2 million cut? And you can see it's pretty devastating. When you have at the core of it, we're a service organization, and service organizations, generally a large percentage of their expenditures are salaries and benefits, and that is certainly true in school districts. We're a little over 80%. So when you look at having to make cuts, and we've already made $1.6 million of cuts in the last 2 years, and we touched a lot of things that were not people. Those opportunities for reductions kind of start to diminish after a while, especially when you look at what Steve talked about, overhead costs, fixed costs, take those out of the equation. So I think we're going to have Jeff and Paul come up and talk about especially the concurrent enrollment, the AP, what that would look like to our students if those things had to be reduced. And I think Paul is going to come up and talk about our activities participation.
Mr. Chair, School Board, thank you for your time tonight. I'm sorry to have to come under these circumstances as it relates to the topic at hand, but hoping that we can take a look at what I'm going to share with you tonight and kind of look at it as kind of a celebration of what our staff and our students are currently putting forward. And so what I've done is I'm going to share with you a summary for the last 3 years for the college and the schools as well as the advanced placement courses at the high school. A little refresher. College and the schools courses are courses that are taught by our high school staff. They have to meet certain requirements through the MinSCU system. While I'm not the exact on this, but basically it's a master's degree plus the 18 credits within the field of specialty. And the students, once they complete this course, do receive what's called a transcripted Riverland College credit. So they get both high school credit towards graduation, and then upon completion of the course, they do get, in essence, a transcripted credit. So what that means is, when they're all said and done, they have a transcript from Albert Lee High School, and then they also receive a transcript from Riverland Community College, which lists the courses off as if they were a student at Riverland Community College as well. Advanced placement courses, often referred to as AP, again, are classes that are taught at the high school by our staff that do go through AP training. Students then take what's called an AP exam, generally in May, upon the completion of their course. The test is out of a 1 through 5 scale, and students that do receive a 3 or higher do earn college credit at participating colleges and universities. Here's a quick summary of the college and the schools classes that we do offer in partnership with Riverland Community College. Quick look at that list. You'll note that the CIS Modern European History class is not offered anymore, as we did have a staff member retire who did have the credentials to teach that class. Here's a breakdown of the number of students that have participated in at least one college in the schools class during their time at Albert Lee High School. And again, I've taken the last 3 years just to give a bit of a trend and or basis for the conversation. So when we look at the students that do complete the college and the schools courses against the total number of students in the graduating class. So if we look at the class of 2019, there were 184 students that graduated. Of the 184, 99 students, or 54% of the students, did participate in the college and the schools program. When we break it down to credits accumulated by these students throughout their high school career, you'll see here the spread of credits. So whether they earn 3 to 10 credits, 11 to 20, 21 to 30, and so forth. Might be a little easier looking at this next slide, which I have. It's the same data, but brought to you differently. So this is by graduating class. So if we take a look at, for example, the bars that are green, yellow, and blue, everybody that's green and to the right, in essence, has earned 21 or more college credits during their high school year, or career. So they are heading into their first year at college well ahead of the game as it relates to their experience ahead of them. Shifting gears to the advanced placement course and test stats. When we look at the students who did complete, let's back up. All of the students who take the AP courses take the AP test in May. Of those students that take the AP test and score a passing score of 3, 4, or 5, this will be the breakdown for those courses. So you can see going left to right, we've got biology, calculus, English, language and composition, macroeconomics, psychology, and then U.S. government and politics. You know, the class of 2020 had a tough go. That was, of course, the pandemic year, and understandably so. The numbers here are not consistent with their peers in front and or behind. When we take a look at those students and then turn those scores into credits, when I look at the University of Minnesota's incoming freshman student sheet, information sheet, basically the courses are given a 4-credit award, shall we say, for the AP, passing the AP exam. So when taking those students that did in fact get 3+ on their AP exam, put credits to that, you can see that number broken down here. So as an example, the class of 2021 did receive 152 English and language composition credits towards their college experience. Broken down, again, by grad class, basically taking all of those numbers we just saw on the last screen and putting them onto one. Here is the breakdown by graduation class. Not on this data, but something I did want to throw in there. We do have a newer course that was first offered in the 1920 school year, is the AP Human Geography course, which is a course that meets the grad requirement for our 10th graders. So most of the courses that we've seen today are juniors and seniors, but the AP Human Geography class tends to be primarily 10th graders. And our 10th graders have responded pretty well. Here is the data for that for the classes, if you will, 22 and 23. Any questions on what I've shared tonight? All right, thank you for your time.
Jeff, one quick question. Have you, has anyone ever calculated out what the average college credit costs, what would be potentially out of that student's pocket now without EP and college and school?
I have not broken the numbers down because there is quite a variance from different schools.
I will share with you what,
Okay.
because both of my children took advantage of CIS, and we calculated for Adam that it was about $18,000. And I think Sydney's are more because she's going to a different school, but she earned about 41 credits.
Okay.
And they transferred well, so.
Okay.
So I was just going to make the point that we spend about $27,000, but the taxpayer, potentially one taxpayer, maybe 1.5 taxpayers saves that, and just by doing that. The other part is it's a workforce issue too. Get on my soapbox just a little bit. The CNA program that we have is a college in the schools class, correct, Jeff?
Thank you. Yeah, that is a post-secondary enrollment class.
Oh, okay.
So just for clarification, post-secondary enrollment, or PSEO, those are courses that are taught by the Riverland faculty on Riverland campus. So we do have, give or take, generally every year, we have our nursing students who take part in that program. So we'll have anywhere from 12 to 18 students in that class once a year, and then we'll have, in addition to that, we'll have other students who do pursue PSEO opportunities. Generally speaking, about 8 to 14 students in a given year do pursue the PSEO, which is, like I said, taught by non-high school instructors at the college level, generally speaking, on that college campus or in a distance learning situation.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Paul?
All right. Well, I've received a lot of feedback from our community about the AP and College in the Schools programs. So just to piggyback on that, I think it's a pretty strong offering that we have as a district. And as Ms. Walsh mentioned earlier, we had 2 activities, bullet points in her presentation, and I'll be brief on those and provide a little bit of data that might provide some insight and discussion as well. So both of those, between the activity fees and our student staff ticket prices, or free gate for students and staff, are kind of the jealousy of the Big Nine. Most schools talk to me in our meetings about how we do it, and it's something that most schools want when we talk the equity piece and eliminating barriers. And so, looking at just for a football game example, on the last game we hosted, we had 787 students attend that game for free, and I think we had 1,400 people in the crowd total. So we look at that. All of our students have the opportunity to get into that game, and it'll be a completely different atmosphere in our activities without that opportunity. And there's also a large number of staff that enter. I think it was about 75 and about 25 senior citizens through the gate at that football game, and it's a pretty consistent number. Also looking at those activity fees that we made the move on over the last year, I just pulled the recent data on this, and I think it speaks volumes to the need in our community. So over the 2020-21 school year, we had 33% of families that signed up for an activity. So 318 registrations where the families selected they could not afford an activity fee at all. And we had 21% able to pay part of it, of the fee. So we're looking at over 50% of our registrations, families are selecting some sort of relief. And what's nice for those families is that there's no questions asked and that data is private. And so we've eliminated that barrier. It's being utilized, and it shows that there's a need there in our community. So two strong pieces there between our ticket prices and our activity fees that I hope we can try and keep.
So just a couple comments. As Jennifer alluded to, and thanks for great information from both you guys and Jennifer. As she alluded to, these are potential cuts, all right? There's nothing written in stone on what the cuts are going to look like. But we, the other pressure that we feel as a district is class sizes. And as Jennifer stated, our biggest cost is our overhead of our staff. And so, none of these are written in stone, but these are going to be hard choices that this board is going to have to make, come early next year, if the referendum is not successful in November. And I think that Paul mentioned equity. This district has been exceptionally progressive in reducing the barriers for our community. And, having sat in on a number of family collaborative services meetings over the years, we have talked about, okay, if we have a barrier to a kid coming to a game on a Friday night, where's that kid going to go if they can't get into the game? So that is another concern that we have as a district. So there's going to be a lot of factors in play here, but we repeatedly hear from presentations to folks, okay, so you're talking $2 million plus, what does that mean? So this is not the solution, the complete list, but this is an example of what we might be presenting to you sometime in the near future.
Any questions for anybody? Yes, Angie.
Yeah, so as this is being discussed in the community, are you guys giving this example to people to kind of give them a concrete idea of what is at stake?
We have not yet. We thought we'd share it with you first. So I have a presentation tomorrow morning at 7:30. We are adding a couple of her slides to this, and we will be talking pieces of this moving forward. Good question.
Yes, Dennis.
Do we have a lot of teachers at the high school that are pursuing the Masters Plus 18, so we're able to bring more of the AP classes in again, or do you think we're pretty stable where we're with it right now?
We generally have staff pursuing various levels of their advancement and so forth. We do have quite a bit of stability at the college and the schools faculty group right now. So I want to say in my 8 years in this job, I think we may have, we've retired one that I can think of, and pretty much we've had a lot of stability there. So we're very fortunate as it relates to our colleagues in the Big Nine or other schools.
Thank you. Yes, Jill.
How are enrollment numbers looking compared to what we had anticipated? And are there greater numbers of open enrollments out of the district this year, or are they kind of at their normal levels?
So we have not sent our first. Joe, we don't. Joe, we don't have the number on the open enrollments yet. We haven't sent our first student enrollment file to the state. That'll happen here in the next couple of weeks. So we'll get an idea on that. We do, just because we keep track on a weekly basis, where our numbers are. Right now, the numbers look pretty good. Now, I think I've presented to you guys in the past, over the course of the year, we tend, as almost every district I've worked in at least, we tend to lose enrollment from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. But right now, we're starting at a stronger spot than I had anticipated from a budgeting standpoint.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And just for the board's reference, I think we are the highest district that Riverland partners for credits. We offer the most credits of any college of any high school, and I think there's like 24 schools right now that they partner with.
Thank you, yes. I do sit on the Riverland Concurrent Task Force and/or committee that meets twice a year by state statute, and it's pretty clear that Albert Lee is significantly ahead of the peers, almost to the point where it's ahead of most everybody else combined as it relates to the level of participation in the college and the schools program. One number that I'm going to leave with you that I embarrassingly failed to include in my slide is it's the following. In 2020, graduates, as an example, received 2,485 college credits as a whole. So 2,485. So if you take that even at just a round number of $100 per credit, which might not be necessarily the case, that's a pretty good sum of money.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you all. Oh, yep, Neil, go ahead.
It's no secret. I've been a big fan of the CIS program since its beginning, and I'd like to see it expanded even further, especially into areas of technology and vocational courses.
Thank you, and that's something that we've explored. One of the biggest challenges comes down to the level of what's called credentialing at the MNSCU level, and I'm not going to claim to be the expert in that, but in having those conversations with our post-secondary partners, the challenge that they are under to credential our high school staff is that our high school staff do not, generally speaking, have the level of professional industry experience as it relates to ours to then be credentialed to be an instructor, as an example, in the area of welding or electricity, residential electricity, and things like that. We have staff that are highly talented and background in those areas. It's just that they don't have the monstrous number of hours that our legislature requires that those teachers have. So it is frustrating on our end, but it is definitely something that we are pursuing, and we have teachers that would be very willing to pursue that if we can get the green light.
What about the, my understanding of PSOs, it's sort of the flip side of CIS. We have Riverland campus in our backyard. I would like to see those two institutions become one, in a sense, and share where we don't have the vocational staff that could accommodate the CIS courses. They do, so we could just have our students walk across the stream and visit that school.
That's a state legislative issue, but it's a great, yeah, absolutely, it's a no-brainer.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, that should bring us to the close. Just a reminder that Monday, October 18th at 5 p.m. will be our business meeting here.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Dennis.
I will be out of town on the 18th, and I will not really have access to the Zoom call, so just
Okay.
to let you know.
All right, you'll be on the road. Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming.